I'm very happy to welcome on stage once more Orlin Radev, CEO of Ampeco, who will be talking about crossing the chasm in EV charging. So, welcome Orlin.
It's 6 a.m. Sarah's phone buzzes, not with an emergency call about broken chargers in Munich, not with a payment processor crash in Milan, not with another crisis demanding her immediate attention. Instead, it's her AI assistant with yesterday's briefing. 99.8% uptime across the network, successful grid event participation in Milan, and an impressive environmental progress. Furthermore, when a major fleet customer in Germany needs custom integration with their logistics system, Sarah's team completes it in days, not months. And when new regulations hit France, her compliance updates automatically. When a better payment processor emerges in Italy, she just switches in a week. What enabled Sarah's success was that she started orchestrating specialists rather than trying to do everything herself. What I'm describing is a scene from 2030. Sarah made it. Hello everyone, my name is Orlin Radev, I'm the CEO of Ampeco. It's amazing to be back at ICNC. And everything I share about Sarah, I'm sure it's great, definitely a future all of you want. But here is the reality. Sarah's morning doesn't exist yet. Instead, too many charge point operators are waking up to emergency calls, broken systems, and the constant stress of having to deal with every row. Why? Because everyone expects you to be mature when we are still figuring out the basics. What's more, today there are three demanding stakeholders. There's the investors telling you, show me your metrics, strong profit margins, predictable growth, like any other mature, well-run business. There's the drivers demanding, I want it to work like gas stations. Everywhere, always, no ups, no surprises. Last but not least, the regulators. Comply with 27 different frameworks, be secure, accessible today, not tomorrow. They all expect Amazon-like service and maturity from an industry that is barely teenage. And the market is unforgiving. Just this year, Podpoint failed to turn things around and was taken over by investor EDF, effectively exiting the market as an independent provider. Blink and ChargePoint in the US did layoffs, and this is not just happening in the States. GridSurf reported a pre-tax loss for the past 2 years and is cutting jobs. BP is scaling down EV charging business plans. This isn't a technology problem. It's a maturity crisis. And the companies that survive won't be the ones with the best code. In Geoffrey Moore's Crossing the Chasm, he identifies the critical gap between early adopters and the early majority. This gap kills most technology companies. Let's see what this means in the context of EV charging. The innovators, these are the EV enthusiasts who bought the first Nissan Leaf, charged on a granny charger, and didn't care about the CHAdeMO connector, didn't rely too much on the CPOs because CPOs barely existed. And I'm sure some of you recognized yourselves in this group. Then the early adopters, these are the sustainability champions who downloaded 15 different charging apps and forgave 60% uptime because they believed in the mission. I think most of us here fall into this group. But then comes the early majority, the pragmatists. Sarah from the beginning, her customers are here. They expect charging to work just like the gas stations, everywhere and always. Then comes the late majority. These are the skeptics who switch to an EV only when forced. And they expect a flawless experience. Any friction confirms their suspicions that EVs are not ready. finally, the laggards. They'll drive an EV when they have no other choice. The chasm, this is where we are now. And it's the difference between it works sometimes and it just works. And right now, we have to face the early majority. These pragmatic, mainstream drivers who expect mature industry standards. They want proven solutions that work reliably. And here's the key insight. The playbook that got us up until this teenage phase, it will not get us to maturity. We know running a charging network requires a lot. Optimal site selection, hardware selection and deployments, complex operations management, mobile applications, and digital user experiences. And then we also have dynamic pricing, payments, fraud prevention, grid integration, analytics, compliance. There's over 30 distinct operational areas, and each of these needs to be at the level of the best specialized solution on the market. Your accounting software needs to match NetSuite Xero or QuickBooks reliability. Your customer support software needs to rival Zendesk, Zoho, or Jira's efficiency. And your field service needs ServiceNow or SiteTracker sophistication. So let's do the math. 30 plus distinct operational areas, each requiring specialized expertise, constantly evolving regulations, and rapidly changing technology. You are standing in front of two options. Build everything yourself, or one vendor that does it all. The first one, building everything yourself. You need development teams to cover all 30 plus areas. You start competing with billion-dollar specialists, and don't forget the never-ending maintenance burden. And the result? You're always playing catch-up, because you simply can't keep up with everything. Then option two, one vendor does it all. There is no vendor on the market that excels at everything. You get mediocrity across the board. Zero competitive differentiation. And the result is death by 1,000 compromises. The reality is that none of these two options will help you cross the chasm. This is why every mature industry abandoned the do-it-all approach a long time ago. They realized that excellence comes from orchestrating the best specialists, not trying to be a specialist at everything. And we don't have to look far to see an example of another industry that already evolved this approach. And it's one industry that we want to replace, or at least upgrade. But it's one that we can learn from. It's the traditional gas stations. Back in the day, they used to do everything on their own, from fuel supply to payment processing, convenience store, car washes. Today, successful fuel retailers, they orchestrate. Dover Fueling Solutions for fuel dispensers, PDI for enterprise software, P97 for mobile payments, Coupon for loyalty programs. They focus on location strategy and customer experience while orchestrating specialists for everything else. At Ampeco, we don't just power the networks of 180 plus CPOs operating over 200,000 charge points. We are at the forefront of seeing companies mature while others watch from the sidelines. So we know firsthand who is struggling, who is thriving. The CPOs that are stuck in the chasm are still building everything themselves, accepting good enough solutions, hoping the market will mature around them. The CPOs who've crossed are thinking like mature businesses. They're obsessing over user experiences. They're building real differentiation and a memorable brand. What they all have in common is that they're orchestrating the best solutions to achieve all of that. And this is just good business. One of our US clients, for example, cut their OpEx cost by 70% by switching to the orchestration approach from their previous do-it-all tactics. This approach can be applied to achieve significant gains in EV charging. In payments, well, use Stripe for quick go-to-market and simplicity, Worldline for European coverage, local payment processor for compliance or cost optimization. In energy management, integrate specialized solutions. Work with grid specialists who are integrated with local markets. And installation maintenance, contract with specialists who have the local field service teams. Integrate specialized AI solutions for predictive maintenance. In customer experience, combine your own EV driver experience with the MSP partnerships. And in data and AI, you can plug in specialized analytics to turn information into insight. The goal is to orchestrate the best specialists to work in harmony, not simply to add more vendors. Based on our experience, working with hundreds of businesses, we know that this mindset shift is genuinely hard. But we also know it is the difference between the ones who cross the chasm and the ones who don't. And I know some of you are thinking, but we have invested so much in building this. That is the sunk cost fallacy talking. Yes, you have poured time, money, and pride into building your proprietary systems. But clinging to past investments will cost you the future. You must be willing to let go of what got you here to get where you need to go. This requires 3 fundamental shifts. First, your role has to change. From doing to orchestrating. Developing everything yourselves doesn't scale. Then, your value has to change. From owning assets to creating experiences. And your competitive advantage, from proprietary technology to having the flexibility to focus on building what makes you stand out. When you're not drowning in operational complexity, you can actually work on creating differentiation. Well, it shouldn't come as a surprise that at Ampeco, we are already in this new mindset. And we are enabling our customers to move in this direction. We provide a robust and ever-evolving foundational layer. It serves to connect and coordinate your chosen solutions. And we ensure seamless data flow, unified operations, and consistent performance. But here is the key. We give you the flexibility to evolve. As better solutions emerge, as your needs change, as markets evolve, you can orchestrate new capabilities without having to rebuild your core infrastructure. You can think of us as a technological spine, built to carry the full weight of foundational systems, so you don't have to, but designed with the agility to integrate and scale with your evolving technical landscape. This is how you achieve both speed and control while maintaining competitive advantage. Enough in theory, though. Here's what happens when you put orchestration into practice with the Ampeco platform. Even though we're in Berlin now, let me take you to France for a second. Picture this. You have found a parking space in the city center of Paris. Already a small victory. You park and you need to charge your car. And suddenly you realize you need 2 different apps, 2 registrations, and 2 ways to pay. 1 for parking, 1 for charging. Why is this not a seamless and integrated experience? This was the daily reality for Indigo, the world's largest parking operator, with over 1.4 million parking spaces in 10 countries, including 500,000 only in France, and already one of the leading CPOs there with 7,000 charging ports with accessible pricing. Indigo have built their success on seamless parking experiences. But adding EV charging meant wrestling with an entirely different set of technical requirements. And each piece needed to integrate with their existing parking infrastructure while maintaining the user experience standards their customers expected. They could have hired a whole team to build this in-house. But remember the 30+ distinct areas and the constant burden of maintenance? Instead, Indigo chose the orchestration path. Through Ampeco, they connected their existing parking operations software that manages cameras, barriers, and now chargers in one view. Asset management systems tracking thousands of locations, security and compliance tools, data warehousing for business intelligence across both parking and charging. And very importantly, their customer parking app, turning it into a unified mobility app. Indigo didn't stop there. Their development team is building custom integrations on top of our platform. They didn't try to out-engineer specialized software companies. They orchestrated best-in-class solutions to create a unified customer experience that enhances Indigo's competitive advantage. Indigo Story shows orchestrating working when charging complements an existing business. But what about when charging infrastructure is your core business and you're operating across 11 different European markets? Let me introduce you to E.ON Drive Infrastructure, or EDRI. They operate 7,500 chargers across 11 European countries, from Hungary to Germany to Poland and Italy. Each country with its own set of challenges, operational, regulatory, and business-wise. EDRI faced a challenge many of you likely recognize. Their existing approach didn't allow them the flexibility to adapt to different markets and different use cases, and didn't offer the required flexibility for future expansion. EDRI chose a different path. Through Ampeco, they orchestrate specialized solutions while maintaining unified operations under one platform that offers them the needed flexibility while providing a robust fundamental backbone. And the transformation has been remarkable. They have achieved streamlined operational setup that quickly adapts to each market and each use case and enables them to develop and integrate their own applications. Now their 7,500 charge points operate as one coordinated network, even though they employ dozens of specialized systems working in harmony. We are going to have a fireside chat at 6 p.m. today at the Ampeco ecosystem stage with EDRI CEO, Arjen. So I invite you to join us there and learn firsthand from him how they are crossing the chasm. EDRI's success shows orchestration working across a diverse public charging network. But what about the residential, where the volumes are even more significant? Let's zoom in to Oslo now. Meet Elevate, who manages 30,000 charge points and almost 200,000 parking spaces across housing associations in Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and Germany. While EDRI wrestles with country and use case specifics, Elevate faces a different beast entirely. Operational complexity at a massive scale. Picture their daily reality. Thousands of residents need onboarding when their buildings get charging infrastructure. Installers across 4 countries need to confirm completed jobs before chargers can go live. Housing association managers need billing data. Support tickets flooding from residents who can't figure out why their car is not charging. Each workflow touching different systems, different stakeholders, different timing requirements. Before orchestration, LOA would have needed armies of customer service reps, billing specialists, and integration engineers just to keep up with the manual processes. Instead, they built their entire operation on workflow automation. Through Ampeco's API, they've connected their world. Nord Pool provides real-time energy pricing that automatically adjusts billing. Their proprietary Helix platform manages housing associations' relationship. Power BI delivers business intelligence. HubSpot handles support automation. And grid flexibility systems optimize demand across 30,000 charge points. The magic happens in the automation. When installers mark a job complete, chargers activate automatically. When the residents move in, onboarding flows trigger without human intervention. And when someone reports an issue through HubSpot, resolution workflows launch immediately. All of this enables LOA to maintain a surprisingly lean team while operating one of Europe's biggest residential charging networks. And it shouldn't come as a surprise that recently LOA achieved their first month of positive EBITDA since launching 6 years ago, something many other networks are yet to achieve. And while multiple factors contributed to any company's path to profitability, the timing suggests that their orchestration approach played a role in reaching this sustainable operation. LOA's CEO, Stian, will also join us at the Ampeco ecosystem stage, where he will share more details about the great collaboration and success that Ampeco enabled. But it's 2025, and we cannot talk about the future of any industry without mentioning AI. The benefits are tremendous, as it makes orchestration exponentially more powerful and accessible. On one hand, is the AI-enabled tools that your orchestration platform can offer. They unlock tremendous value by leveraging the context from across hundreds of networks, hundreds of thousands of charge points, and tens of millions of user interactions. In operations, this includes advanced detection and auto-resolution of issues. In user experience, you get contextual natural language assistance. But AI today is also amazing for creating new value by developing your own add-ons and extensions, as long as your selected platform allows for it. And as you can probably imagine, at Ampeco, we do not just make that possible, we strive to make it as easy as possible. With all that said, remember Sarah's morning in 2030? These are not lucky breaks. They are predictable results of mature industry thinking. Her investors see consistent returns because her operations run smoothly. Drivers choose a network because it just works. And regulators trust her because compliance is automated, not scrambled. Here's what I'll challenge you to do in the next 90 days. Audit ruthlessly. What are you building and managing that specialists would do better? Identify your first orchestration win. Pick one area to prove the concept and start orchestrating. Begin directing specialists instead of doing everything yourself. Sarah's future depends on strategic choices, not chance. It depends on those who choose to orchestrate rather than do everything solo. The specialists are awaiting. The tools exist. The only question is, will you be answering emergency calls at 6 a.m. or will you be like Sarah? And if you want to learn how we can help you be like Sarah, find us one hangar away. You can't miss our booth. Or join our masterclass where you can see our platform in action. Thank you and have a great conference.
Thank you so much, Olin. I'd like to welcome the audience to ask questions, so please just raise your hand while I have the first question for you from the audience. You were talking a lot about the chasm and sort of bridging it. Where do you think we are on the technology S-curve?
You're asking me as an enabler in this space, where I would say, I mean, we are way up there, but
also transparency, because it actually said it online, asked by Greenflux. So
asked by Greenflux. Well, probably both of us would say we are way up there already from the technology side. I think the adoption and what you do with this technology is why we need some catching up. I want to tell you, a lot of what we enable with our technology stays dormant. It's not used by the companies that really have to use it.
I just have to keep an eye. There's a question over there.
There's a hand over there.
There's two hands over there. Maybe we can have a mic. Yeah.
I was just wondering if lots of companies choose to join one orchestrator who creates it rather than building their own things, don't they then also risk waiting in line for certain features or developments and so on, whereas actually making it yourself could speed up the process and then give you that competitive advantage instead?
Let me turn this question around. If many companies are building the same thing over and over again, how does that give speed to anyone? So the question is, what is the common? What are the common things that need solving that doesn't make sense building yourself? And what are the differentiators? So what is it that you have to build that is your own, that resonates with your business model, with your competitive advantage? Focus on that. Imagine how much more you can deliver when your resources are not scattered building what everyone else has to build. So the premise of Ampeco is this one. We are trying to solve the common, which is already, it's a layer that's very wide and thick already, but we are leaving enough flexibility so that the differentiation that's needed can be created on top of it.
Do we still have the mic? There's a question over here.
Thanks. Olin, Henrik here from Quello. How do you deal with what I call the interface problem? What I mean by that is that if you deploy a suite of differentiated softwares, they all need to interact with each other, and you typically always you lose stuff in the middle. So something does not work, you go to vendor number one, and he comes back to you after a week and says, we carefully examined things. Unfortunately, it's not us, it's probably the other side. And then you go to the other side and they tell you exactly the same. And you get lost in the middle. And it takes time and ages. You don't have the knowledge to deal with it. How do you deal with that?
given that in our position, we're the core platform of many of our customers, we have taken up the ownership of these issues resolutions with us. You can imagine that when a problem occurs and sessions are failing, you can try to trace it between the software that has the charger connected, the charger itself and its firmware, the connectivity. But the one touch point you have first usually is with the CPMS, with the backbone, the thing that's in the middle. For us, this means that we have to be the ones that are able to trace and pinpoint and also very often resolve, even when it's not in our system, the issue that arises. And I think with this mindset, the vendor you choose for a core platform, they should be able to deliver this resolution within their platform. How they handle it is up to them to solve. The way we handle it with hardware manufacturers, we have a dedicated team working with hardware manufacturers so that we can first have a direct channel of communication, have insights that no single customer has, and have ways to sometimes, when needed, circumvent deficiencies which are found on the other side, instead of waiting for someone else that probably has slower pace of movement to react on this. So take ownership of this. If this is someone like us or Greenfox, I guess, we will be taking ownership of this so that we can solve this for our customers rather than let them go to the different vendors and try to figure out where things break.
So basically, you're saying you take responsibility. We work with you. You take responsibility for flaws in the firmware of the charger.
We wouldn't update your firmware for you, but we will tell you if this is a firmware, and we will point you to in the right direction. We will know it faster than you have to figure it out with the vendor.
Great promises there. So maybe to any hands? Otherwise, I would like to ask you a question, because maybe we'll see you at ICNC again next year. Who knows?
Who knows?
So can you sort of pinpoint? It seems like Ampeco is very structured. You have your strategy clearly lined out. Your presentation is very sleek. What are your goals to be achieved in the next 12 months that we can pin you down next year?
Our role in this industry is to be an enabler to the companies that are on the ground, that are installing the infrastructure, that are handling the problems that arise from running a diverse network, usually across different markets. So my aim is to do this job better and better every year. So next year, I hope to be here, being able to share how we are doing a better job enabling the companies that are out there doing what's required so that we can move forward.
So we're looking forward to new success stories next year that are as impressive as
I am as well.
ones from this year.